Hey folks, bit of a shorter video today because I have exams coming up, but I wanted to discuss the result of the Roaring Moon suspect test. So, as I'm sure you all know, Roaring Moon got banned, and it's not what I would have voted for, but then again, I did mess up my Rex run, I'm not gonna lie. I played a lot of games really late at night. You know how it is, that's on me. But you know, I thought that Roaring Moon pretty much single-handedly enabled a lot of physical offense archetypes. Like, if you look at my current team, I've pretty much stacked sweepers in Roaring Moon, Dragonite, and Scissor. And they're all physical, they all kind of have similar checks. And Roaring Moon's really important to open up matchups against stuff like Dondozo or Corviknight with its taunt and knockoff. And I thought that, you know, with Roaring Moon, these kinds of physical offense teams, they gain a lot more flexibility and they can incorporate more options in team building. I feel like there's not really any knocker that you could that's still left in the tier that's as potent as Roaring Moon. So like Hazard physical offense is weakened by a lot. There's also nothing that's as immediately strong and forcing, so I feel like Sticky Web is probably going to get quite a bit weaker. Like, if you think about the offense versus stall matchup now, it's kind of like, well, you can't really get through Dozo without that powerful forcing knock, right? So yeah, I don't know, maybe it will be for the better that these teams disappear. I mean, we'll have to see. And I can see how this really opens up a lot of other team styles, like balance in order to deal with physical sweepers. Now I think those compositions that are trying to fit, you know, just Pesharunt or Rotom Wash or that kind of thing, they can be a little bit more free. They can maybe spare a few utility moves on everyone else that would have had to trade into Roaring Moon, for instance. I think the reason why Roaring Moon got banned is a little strange, because I think most people didn't have a problem with this whole, you know, the classic Dragon Dance knockoff Earthquake acrobatics set, or even the knockoff Dragon Dance taunt acrobatics thing. I think the ban was more so a response to all these weird super bulky Roaring Moon with like Roost, Terra Blast, knockoff Dragon Dance, one of which we'll see in this replay. And I can see how it's like, I can see how these would be oppressive for offensive teams, because you're just not really expecting to be able to deal with something so fast and bulky. And also, if you try to trade into it to like set up your priority moves, for instance, it just roosts everything off. So I mean, I guess in that way it's kind of like Gouging Fire from the past. But I think where Roaring Moon and Gouging Fire kind of differ is Roaring Moon is a little bit more vulnerable to status. Not necessarily Thunder Wave, because it has the Terra Ground set, but Will-O-Wisp, I thought that that was always like a super reliable way to deal with Roaring Moon and several other adjacents, because Terra Fire, I feel like, is pretty rare on these sets. I mean, I suppose the point is that it could conceivably run Terra Fire, but I don't know. It's kind of, I feel like if you try too hard to imagine all the stuff that can theoretically be powered through by a Roaring Moon and its Terra, you might be kind of missing the big picture. And I'm not sure that this bulky Roaring Moon thing is really oppressive. I mean, what if it's just like a trend that kind of just ends up all right, like offense just adapts to it and everything is fine? So I don't know. And this also kind of worries me in the sense that it's like, if you look at Dragonite can run very similar sets, except it just doesn't have the knockoff, right? So I guess it's less consistently useful. But if you're looking at these knockoff Terra Blast Roost sets, those guys are also not very consistent, at least in my experience, because they forgo a lot of power and they forgo a lot of speed. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say whether or not this ban was justified in my eyes, and it's also hard to say what this means for offense going forward. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see, and I'm excited for these developments, even though Roaring Moon is a Pokemon that I think the metagame is overall better with.